Hi, Fashion Dolls. It is Fierce Female Friday, March 18th, and welcome to an all-new episode of Style by Stevie. Our very special guest today is one of the cast members of the Circle ATL. She is a musician, she is an activist, and she's here joining us today to talk about her upcoming projects. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today we have Alissah. Hey, Stressless. Hi, TGIF. Welcome, welcome. I hope you all are doing wonderful today, TGIF everyone. It has been an amazing week. It's been an amazing week, ladies and gentlemen, and the beautiful Alissah is here. All right, let's add her in.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome to the Dollhouse, beautiful. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. How's your day going?
It's going wonderful. What about you?
This rainy weather is not cute.
We've been having some
cute.
too down here.
I've been traveling, so getting back to this weather is like, oh, I want to get back to the sun.
I understand. How has 2022 been for you thus far? Because we've seen you on the Circle ATL. We'll talk briefly about that. But how has 2022 been for you thus far? Because we've had some ups and downs with this pandemic and stuff, girl. So it's crazy.
It's been good. It's been good. 2022 has picked up so much. And I know that we were trying to find like a schedule to like do this interview and stuff. And I'm very grateful to be busy, but my body is not ready for it because we've been so lazy for like 3 years. So now I'm like, oh shit, like I'm playing catch up with my body and it's like, slow down. But I'm trying to do a lot, as much as I can at least.
Yes. All of us content creators, performers, all of us out here are trying to stay busy. And when I did my interview with Dwayne yesterday, that's the same thing. Basically, he was saying, you know, when this thing hit, we didn't expect this coming, and everybody's trying to make sure that they get all of their projects and stuff completed.
Oh my God, yes. Like the whole thing has just been too much, but I'm really glad to see that everybody's working and that everybody's doing their thing. And you know, there's so much for everybody to have and to go around that it's selfish to think that, you know, you're the only one going through stuff. Like everyone should be able to, you know, own their thing and be supported and be uplifted and elevated and, you know, all that.
Absolutely. So how did the journey for Alissah start? Tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up, and how did you get your start into music? We'll talk about your music career as well, too.
So, you know, ever since I was little, I was always told no. You can't play with that. That's for girls. No, you can't dress like that. No, that's pink. No, 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 no. So I was always like, well, what am I doing wrong? You know, like, okay. So until I was maybe, I always identified as a girl, and I would always pray like, oh, I just want to wake up as a girl. And then when it wouldn't happen, it was almost like, it's weird to say, but I feel like little kids are not kids, they're little people. And I think that they know at a very early age who they are. And I think that it creates psychological dysmorphia with people saying no, 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 like you cannot. And I'm very sensitive when it comes to kids because I don't see them as kids. I just see them as small people learning. And so when I knew who I was and I was always told no, it really discouraged me, and it made me feel like, well, maybe there is no God, or there is no, you know, this person who wants to see me happy. Why would I be given this life? And thinking back on it today, like I haven't thought about that particular situation when I think I was maybe like 6 or 7, and I was like crying, begging, like to just wake up as a girl, and I didn't. And I remember that feeling of like, okay, I guess it's just I'm gonna suffer the rest of my life. But that wasn't the case. I got everything that I needed. You know, the universe worked in my favor, and I had to realize that I cannot work against my struggle. I have to work with it. You know, I have to work with what I was given, and that's all I can do. And ever since then, I've just been slowly finding who I am. I didn't realize I was transgender because for my whole life I was been called a fag or gay or, you know, queer. And that's what I had no choice but to identify as that, you know. And but when I saw one of the girls, I knew that I was one of the girls. And from that moment on, it just when I see things and I identify, I switch. And I no longer identify as something else. And I'm very thankful that I got, you know, 18 years to live as my old person, because it gave me that time to realize who I really was. And then once I realized that I was transgender, I gave myself a time period of like, okay, if by the time you're 25, you don't already transition, don't do it, because you're not going to be some Caitlyn Jenner later on in life, all confused and crazy, trying to figure out who you are. And it's not going to be cute. So I gave myself deadlines, I gave myself timelines, and I've always told myself there is no plan B. You know, a plan B is always set up for a plan A to fail. And for me, this was always plan A. But it started very early on, and I'm grateful for girls like Erica Andrews and Sierra Fox and Shauna Brooks and Doray Saunders and, you know, Candace Kane and all these girls that came around with the MySpace days, because we didn't have nobody on TV other than RuPaul.
Yes.
I didn't want to be like RuPaul. You know, there was nobody like me out there. And I'm like, you know, so when I saw beautiful women like that, I knew that it was amazing, you know.
And then fast forward, we got T.S. Madison
Yeah.
and Laverne Cox and Hope Giselle, and the list goes on and on. So for you, living in your truth, and I can relate to this personally. I can relate to you personally because you were the only trans cast member on the Circle 18. I'm just like, wow. Even though we're different women of color, we're still trans, and we both have the same story in a way where it's just like we're coming out full circle and living our authentic selves, which is not easy. So for you, living in your truth and walking in your truth, how does it feel? And what advice would you give to someone that is young? Because you said you don't call them children, you call them little people. And I like that, by the way. What advice would you give to people that are looking to come into terms with their truth? Because it's hard. For me, I came out at 13 years old, and I talk about it all the time on the show. I discovered that something was off about me at 13 years old. And my mom, because moms know everything, she asked me, she said, tell me the truth. Are you into boys? And we just knew. And after that, as I progressed in my high school years, it just came out full circle. I came in with platinum blonde, short hair, and I just nailed it. I owned who I was unapologetically, you know,
The
and I
moment your
didn't care.
mom acknowledges something that it's okay, you feel like nobody else matters. You know, so it's a powerful thing that you felt that way like that, because it was quite the opposite for me. Like, my mom is Mexican, my mom is Catholic, you know, my mom,
Oh, yeah.
it turned into a telenovela where she was just like fainting and all that jazz. But she asked me if I was gay, and I was like, yeah, because I guess that's what y'all was calling me. I was like, yeah. And then she said, so you want to be a woman? And I was like, well, maybe, now that you mentioned it. But it was weird. That always stuck out to me, why she said that. So you want to be a woman. I think she knew that it wasn't really gay. I think she knew.
Yeah, moms have that first instinct. They picked onto it instantly. When my mom asked me, she said, so you like boys? Okay, that's what you into. And then from there on, she said, just as long as you protect yourself, you be safe out here, there's nothing wrong with it. I love you and I support you 100%. You're my baby. I can't love you any less. And till this day, now fully, she supports the whole thing. And my father, that's a whole different story. He slowly but surely cut, just like dads. We know how dads are. They slowly but surely come into it. Once you educate them and walk them through it a little bit, they develop a better, more understanding.
I find it easier to step up to my dad and correct him and make him feel like he you know, versus stepping up to my mom. I don't know what it is. I'm scared of my mom. But for my dad, I'm like, you know what? I don't need you. Bye, you know. But my mom, it's everything. That connection that you have from, you know, coming out of her womb and everything. That's a very powerful connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So music, tell us how you got your start into music.
Well, it started out very, very, like, I want to say middle school is when I started to really get into music. Um, I never thought that I would have to say this, but my girlfriend at the time, I was like in early middle school, she had given me a CD for Christmas. And it was very innocent. It was a very innocent relationship. It was stupid. But she gave me a CD and it was TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool. And from that moment on, I was obsessed with that album. And then my parents, they're both immigrants. You know, my stepdad's Vietnamese and my mom's Mexican, so the language barrier, we always had to speak English, you know, to try and understand everybody. They worked so hard and so much. They were never really present. Um, so I had a caretaker. Her name was Stephanie. She introduced me to Salt and Peppa and Jordan Knight and, like, you know, all these amazing artists and sounds. And since I was little, those were my influences. You know, when I first saw Janet Jackson, I was like, that's what I want to do. I
My
want
girl.
that. And, you know, just different people like that. But when I heard Missy Elliott, I was like, what is this? And then I realized that it was a producer, Timbaland, who was behind all this. So I have
Mm-hmm.
it. I created like a mood board in like middle school, and I said I wanted to be like Timbaland and Missy Elliott. And that's always, I've held true to that. I love producing. I love remixing. I love making mashups. I love everything with digital music and just that aspect of it. So my music journey started with those artists, the Timbalands, the Dark Childs, the Missy Elliott's, those are my favorite sounds. So I've always kind of held on to those sounds. Um, but that's where my music started. Yeah.
Okay, and you were also on the show, The Circle. You mentioned being in a girl group. Tell us about that.
Well, the girl group was actually something that I was not planning to do. I came into the girl group as an assistant. You know, they needed an assistant. They were getting busy. And as we were going on, with all girl groups, there's problems. So one of the girls decided she was going to quit. She so happened to be a Latin girl. The creator of the Secret Girls, she wanted to have a white girl, a black girl, a Asian girl, a Latin girl. She wanted to have a mix of, you know, different cultures. So she couldn't find another Latin girl, and, you know, I think a month went by, and I said, well, I can step in. She made me audition, which was a little humiliating because I'm like, girl. But I auditioned, and you know, I got in, and from there it just spiraled this crazy phenomenon, and it was cut short because of our egos. It was cut very short. I think a lot of the girls were still focused on um, a lot of the other things that come with the lifestyle. You know, we're
Yes.
really so focused into the music professionalism of it. So it was short lived, but that gave me the confidence to become a solo artist and put out my music right after that. And ever since then, I've just been doing music since then. So I'm thankful that that door was open for me to be able to do music. Yeah.
There we have it. And you've also done some DJing as well too. So tell us about that. I think of, because there's one DJ that comes to mind. She's a female as well. DJ Beverly Bond. And she DJs and she hosts events and things like that and such. Like, it's not enough women DJs, you know. I mean, on my end, speaking from the journalistic side, being a blogger or whatever, we have us, but when it comes to us, you working in the music world, like, there's slim to none when it comes to women DJs. And I mean, yeah, the guys have taken over everything. We live in a male dominated world. So
I mean, think about it. Paris Hilton is the #1 highest paid female DJ in the world. And because she's the only
yes.
one, it's not because she's good, you know, it's because she's the only one. And that is something that I've always wondered, is why there's not many more female DJs. And to me, DJing is not my first passion. It goes with the producing aspect of it.
Mm.
I don't find joy in being a party's DJ because I like to be in the party. And for some reason,
Right.
DJ's just behind, secluded, and he's just there. And I just didn't like it as much. I mean, I've done it several times, and it's a good gimmick for a lot of shows that we do here in Atlanta. But I would much rather be on stage. You know, I would much rather be on stage because, yeah, me having to sit up there for like 3 hours is not cute. But it's a lot of fun, and I've put out two DJ albums. You know, just because I like to do the producing side of it, and it's been fun, and I love to do a lot of things where I'm able to do a lot of things, but lately I've just been focusing on just music and just, you know, kind of bringing my whole career to like a center, you know, focus.
Writing for you as a writer, a singer, performer, an artist, what's the writing process like for you? Because I know every singer every artist loves to have their element. What is it like for you? What's running through your mind when you're writing?
I have to start with a hook first. I have to either start with a hook or I have to start with the first note. If my ears don't perk up when I hear the first note, next, you know. So I pick and choose like that, but a lot of people, they like to write from a place of a broken heart. Like when you're broken, they like to create and stuff. For me, it's quite the opposite. When I'm heartbroken and when I am sad, I completely shut down. There is no, let me write a song about him, fuck him, all this. There is none of that. There is shut down, you know, and I don't know if that's just me not wanting to process certain feelings, or maybe I don't know how to open my soul up to be able to write from that place of vulnerability. I don't know. But I would love to maybe one day try and reach down into that part of myself. But for now, I like to bring in other writers, specifically trans writers. There's a writer, her name is Ashley Breathe. She's from New York City. She used to work with the Paradiso Girls, and like she's written a lot of cool bops and stuff. And I've always just admired that she was a proud trans woman working in a mainstream industry. So I've hired her for several of my songs, and like, you know, she helps me with the hook and stuff like that. So I have a little team that comes in and like, you know, helps me clean up what I can't really portray myself. But overall, I like to write from a goofy place. I like to take myself out of myself and put myself in this persona of like, I have all this money, I'm, you know, all this stuff, and I'm sexy.
Yes.
Because I'm actually really shy in person. Like I'm very quiet and I'm just very like to myself. So I like to write from a place who is not me. I like to pretend I'm someone else. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Even Michael Jackson was the same way. When I think of, you know, Lil Kim is the same way. She said this in the interview. Through her lyrical content, you would have thought like, wow, she's so bold and courageous with it. But when she's off, not Lil Kim, she's Kimberly. You see what I'm saying? You separate the two, from Lil Kim to Kimberly. And when she's doing her interviews, you can see that shyness. You can see that timidness, that coyness about her. And that's why we love her. She gives us the hit singles, so you never know. Yeah. Michael Jackson was the same way. He was private. He was a very shy, soft-spoken person. And then through some of his interviews, you could kind of tell that as well, too. It kind of brought it out of him. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've never, like, even my family first, I've only been, like, present in my family's life for maybe 6-7 years now. So wow. It's pretty fresh for them, and for some reason I couldn't wait to, like, before I started to get popular, I was like, when they came into it, they were like, oh wow, like you've built up a good reputation for yourself, like, and now it's like getting bigger and bigger, and my mom's sometimes like, why are you flying so much? She doesn't understand. She's just like, you're going where? Like, why are you going there? What are you doing? And I'm like, still sees it as some kind of like, she doesn't understand it because she knows hard work. You know, she knows what it's like to be 9 to 5 and like that structure. And I don't. I only know how to be in a nightclub. I only know how to be on a stage. I only know how to be, you know, in that environment. And I tried to manage a restaurant. I tried to do these things, but I ended up just holding trays and I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? So it's hard trying to make it a full-time job, but yeah, there's got to be a balance.
And we got to do what we got to do to make ends meet if you want to continue in this industry. Because for studio time, for booking, all of that you have to pay for. Shout outs to my mentor, Miss Melody XOXO. Shout outs to Melly B. Shout outs to Fire by Nate. All of you that are watching, please go and follow the names that I've mentioned. We're here with the beautiful Alissah, and we're talking about her music. And of course, we're going to get into the circle. But I'm kind of holding off on that. I want to get into that just yet. We're talking about the music first. So, musically, could you see yourself writing for other artists as well, too?
I've thought about it, but right now I have a lot going on, with myself. You know, I'm still trying to figure out myself. I still have a lot of stuff that I personally want to get done, you know, to feel complete. I have a lot of projects stacking up that I'm like trying to find the time to squeeze in personal time. And I've thought about writing for other people. I've helped a lot of other people try to find the resources to either become an artist or, you know, a couple of my trans girlfriends are now like into music now because they're like, oh, wow, like I see that you're doing it. And now I feel like I want to do music too. And I'm like, well, do it. Like, you know, you got to start somewhere. You might as well start now, you know?
100%. Start from there. And songwriting, you know, right? A lot of us write, some people write their own music. That's the best way to go about it. You know, you never know what could happen in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into it. Y'all have been waiting. I've been kind of holding off. The Circle ATL. Tell us, what was the audition? Because I'm pretty sure you guys had the audition for the program and the platform. What was it like being, you know, getting the call that you were going to be on the cast as one of the main cast members and things?
So I got a call from Ashley Breathe because, you know, she's been, you know, a writer on some of my songs, and she just said, hey, you know, I'm co-producer of this show, or would you be interested? We're looking for Atlanta girls. And I was like a little apprehensive. Like I should have listened to my soul and was like, maybe you shouldn't, but I did it. You know, I ended up choosing to do it, and it was a great experience. Like I said, I'm very shy. So when I was thrown into it, I smoke a lot of weed too. So I was a little high to calm the nerves. But when we started filming, the first people I met was Dante and Melly. And I felt a little intimidated by Melly because I watched the trailers from the previous ones. I didn't have time to watch all the episodes, but I watched the trailers and I was like, oh, Lord, Melly's going to give me a fever, like all that. So he ended up being the nicest one. Like he ended up being one of the most warming people to me. And it was an amazing experience doing that. Once I met the entire cast, I started to see some familiar faces because I am Atlanta and I've been around the block. So I've seen a lot of people from different nightclubs and from working and everything. So I did recognize Mega Body. Eugene, I've recognized his face, but I don't think that him and I have ever had an interaction. And I recognized Rico because me and Rico were on Showcast for like 10 years. You know, we were all over Atlanta performing in all the clubs and regularly, you know, like 6 nights a week, 5 nights a week even. And so I knew Rico, and I stopped and I was like, what do you do? And he was like, I hope they don't have you on the same show I do. And we were on the same show. So it was nice meeting everybody. I got a little weirded out because who starts a hi, how are you? What are you? You know, like who, I've never been asked like before, like a proper introduction, like what my race is. And I thought that that was odd. But once again, because I'm high, I'm just like, okay, well, I don't think about stuff until later. And I'm like, was that shady or what, was she trying me? So it was in the back of my mind, but it was a great experience to learn. I learned a lot. I don't want to speak for her. We all know who her is. I don't want to speak for her, but I learned a lot about myself, about what I'm willing to tolerate, boundaries that I have to set. I learned a lot.
Yes.
And I just hope that she learned a lot as well, because this wasn't nothing personal on my end. There was nothing I could have ever done to have made it personal. Nothing. And it's odd that it was personal towards me when you stand for trans people and I'm the only trans person on the cast. Like, it was just kind of like a backhanded compliment, you know?
Right. And I'm just going to give my thoughts on that because I spoke with Eugene yesterday and I've had her on the show previously, but we talked about colorism. And I explained to Eugene yesterday, in a way, it's xenophobic because you can't, she's still, I said, Alissah is still a woman of color at the end of the day. And we all, as trans women of color, are going to face some sort of marginalization. We're all up under this umbrella as a collective, as people of color, where we're fighting this one thing, and it's called oppression. They're not going to give us the same rights as a white woman. If I had blonde hair, don't get me wrong, girl, I love my blonde, but I'm not blonde today. If I had blonde hair and blue eyes, it would be completely different. Fair skin, all of that, it would be completely different. But we're both trans women of color. So you can't exclude one trans woman of color who is also fighting the same oppression with us. You just cannot. And that's what I explained yesterday to Eugene. And we both came to an understanding when we were discussing that on my platform. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the issues that that she was presenting to me were not issues that I was understanding, because to me, racism is prejudice, and it's also a lot of other things. If you don't want to call it racism, we don't have to, but we will call it, you know, something else, and it's still not inclusive. You know, whatever it is, it's still not inclusive. And I just, it made me feel a certain way, you know, and I've had, what, like a year and a half to process it. And how long? It's probably been about a year and a half. And it's maybe a year. But it's still one of those situations where I'm still trying to understand it, where it came from or why. I don't think that I was ever extremely rude to her. I think I was actually being very nice. I think once you guys see the reunion and y'all see the last few episodes, I'm very nice. I do not have time to fight with you. I do not have time, nor do I have the education to try and understand you psychologically. It's not my responsibility, you know? So found it very odd that we couldn't come to a peaceful agreement, and
Right.
she had to constantly be portrayed as the angry Black woman. And that's something that I didn't see her as that, and I don't want her to be portrayed as that, because she's very passionate, but I don't think that she's an angry person. I just think that it got the best of her, and I don't want people to take away from the show thinking that she's a horrible person, because she's not. She just has very strong beliefs. I just don't know why I was singled out. I don't know why I was personally blocked. I don't think I was ever that rude. I think at one point I said, you know what, fuck both of y'all, because y'all have these strong opinions and it makes no sense. And that's just how I talk. You know, I don't say fuck you because it's like a huge thing. I'm just like, that's how I talk. Like, fuck y'all, bitch, like this and that. That's how we talk. That's part of the, you know, the gay culture that we've all grown up in. So I've just learned a lot about how I deliver to people or how I like address people. And just, you know, it's crazy. I do want to take a little second and apologize to B-Hawk, because I was trying to prove a point in a specific moment where Jewel could stand up for B-Hawk and belittle Melly B, but I couldn't stand up for Melly B in defense of what was being attacked by him. And it was, and
Right.
that's what I was trying to prove. And in my delivery, once again, I had to learn that it was a bad delivery. And I do want to apologize to B Hawk because I had no business bringing her into the conversation. I don't know her. She's another trans woman. I have high respect for trans women. There's not a trans person on this planet that I will ever publicly degrade, like ever. That's just not, it's already enough from everyone. I just personally don't want to ever have to do that. So I do want to extend an apology to B Hawk for that. I was very insensitive in some things, but I was also very hurt. And yeah.
And that, you know what that is, girl? That's accountability. You owned up to it. Jewel has owned up to whatever she's done. Everybody's owned up to their part, and that's how we can all come together and form that unity, because we know all of us being women of color, we're still going to face some sort of oppression. They're not going to give us the same rights as a white woman would. They're not, and that's just how the world is. Mm-hmm. So we have to learn to come together and fight this oppression together. So yes, 100%. 100%. And I love y'all all. I love y'all all, you know. Yes. Okay. So we're going to do some quick games with our girl Alissah before we wrap up Fashion Dolls. The first one is called the Rapid Five. And then the second one is going to be called Her Thoughts. And I'm going to drop the names of some of our trans sisters, and you give me one word that describes them. So the first thing we're going to start off with is the Rapid Five. What are 5 things that Alissah can't live without?
Ooh, coffee, weed, shmoney, Bad Bunny, and dick.
Okay. Hello. Y'all got it here. At least she was honest. All right. All right. The second one is called Her Thoughts. So I'm going to drop the names of some of our sisters out here that are doing the damn thing, and you give me one word that describes them. So the first girl that I'm going to start off with would have to be Blossom. Blossom. That's her name, Blossom.
Powerful.
All right. The second woman that we're going to mention is Dominique T. Jackson.
Strong.
MJ Rodriguez.
A very kind soul ahead of her time.
Haley.
Extremely beautiful.
And last but certainly not least, India Moore.
Pioneer.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, Fashion Dolls, do y'all have any questions for Alissah? This was such a powerful conversation. And shout outs to my mentor, Miss Melody XOXO. She put a powerful statement in the comments. She said, trans lives matter. And she's an activist for trans women like ourselves. She speaks up. She's always speaking up for the rights of LGBT people and making sure that we have our voices heard. With everything that's going on with Disney Child, that's a whole nother situation. She spoke about that. Make sure y'all head on over to her channel and go check it out, please, because what's going on with Disney, what they're doing with the LGBTQ community, I'll just put this out here as a statement and quote me on it. I think it's wrong that you're continuing to support someone who is not out here being inclusive to people like us, the LGBTQ community, because we basically grew up watching Disney. I know for me, my father would not, I remember, because it goes back to the beginning, what we discussed about our upbringings. Life Size with Tyra Banks and Lindsay Lohan was one of my favorite movies to watch. And according to him, these are my father's words, oh, I'm not going to let you watch that girly television. It's going to make you want to do this and do that. And then just look how it backfired on him. I'm fully in my truth. I mean, like, you tried to prevent me from watching these things, but I went on ahead and I took control over my life. And I said, I got to do what's right for me. I can't continue to live in silence and be insecure and uncomfortable and in a closet the rest of my life. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And my advice to people out here who are watching this interview is to come out and be your authentic, true self. And I think Billy Porter says something of the extent, because they were giving Billy Porter some backlash on wearing a gown on the red carpet, which I didn't see anything wrong, because women, we break gender norms all the time. We wear men's clothes, and for us, it's a fashion trend. But when men wear women's clothes, they look at it. Lil Nas X is another one. Men who are gender fluid, Jaden Smith, Pharrell Williams. When I see these guys take risks with fashion, I said, okay, step it up. And they're comfortable with who they are. And that's what it is about walking in your truth.
Yeah.
Being comfortable with who you are and owning it unapologetically. So that would be my advice. And Alissah, I think she said something to the extent on the show as well, too. Jewel even said it when she was here, which is to all the Black trans femmes, Black trans non-gender conformings, live and walk in your truth. There is nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with you. And to the young teens that are out here watching my program that are struggling to come out, because like I said, I came out at 13 years old, and I was very cocky and I was very arrogant, and I didn't know what I was doing. But our moms, again, like we discussed in the beginning of the interview, they pick it up. Moms pick it up instantly. Now dads will be like kind of scratching their head like, huh? But moms get it instantly, because that woman intuition, which we inherit as well too, where we're catching on to things where it's just like, got you. So yeah. So I'm gonna let the beautiful Alissah close it out. If we don't have any questions, I see everybody left. So yes, I'm gonna let Alissah close it out with some final words of encouragement.
Yeah.
And also let everyone know if you have any projects where they can follow you and check you out.
I'm going to start with my projects. I have a couple things coming up, a couple prides coming up that I'm going to be performing at. A couple of them I can't speak about, but one of them is going to be LA Pride. And I'm also working on another girl group. Yes, it's 3 of us from Atlanta, and we're going to tear it up. And then my final words, I just want to say that there's a lot going on in the world right now. A lot that we in America are being blinded by. The media is not showing us a lot of stuff. We're being very delusional in this country, and we have it really good. I want to say that with the war going on, and there's so many of our other trans sisters in Guatemala that are fleeing their country because they can't be trans. It's very heartbreaking to see these people. And a couple weeks ago, I was telling a friend of mine, I just feel so unacknowledged. I feel so alone. And she was like, I know what a trans person being unacknowledged looks like. She's like, you're very much acknowledged and you're very much loved. She's like, everything that you do moving forward, do it for every trans person that is no longer able to be here. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. I think that a lot of things that are going on in the United States are very scary in a way, but I think that trans people specifically need to come together. We need to uplift each other. We need to elevate each other. We can't, with this whole bickering of who's got the better ass, who's got the better look, who's more passable, who's not, who cares? Here's the thing. A man is going to sleep with anything that he wants. It don't matter if it looks great or if it doesn't. So that pressure on us to having to look a certain way or to have to live up to a certain way for a man, we got to do better as a community and uplift each other as women and even our trans men. We have to do better. We have to do better for ourselves, for our kids, for our next generation, for everything. So that's all.
Absolutely, because I've seen it, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it all over YouTube too, with our trans sisters. Savannah, all of them are trans women that are going at each other like, oh, who's the more passable trans woman? Who's this? Who's that? Well, we're all beautiful, and that's what's unique about us, is that we're all beautiful. We're distinct, and when we have our own look. Not all trans girls are going to look the same. I'm not going to look like who was the first Black woman to appear on the Clairol hair color box. It was Tracy Norman,
Yeah.
Africa. I'm not going to look like Tracy. I'm not going to look like T.S. Madison. I'm not going to look like Laverne. I'm not going to look like any of these girls out here. We all have our own distinct look, and that's what makes us so beautiful. So I'm going to quote Laverne Cox, and then I'm going to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. Trans is beautiful. So get into it.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, and you're welcome to come back to the dollhouse anytime, girl. Don't be a stranger.
I won't. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Alissah, make sure y'all follow her. Shout outs to my girl, 3 times the T. Y'all have a blessed Friday and a safe weekend, and we will see y'all next week.
Bye.
Y'all take care.